Hi, I'm Rabbi Yisrael Bernath, and welcome to my weekly Torah thoughts for Parshat Matot-Maasei. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that you can support this podcast and all the wonderful work that we're doing at Chabad NDG. Right now, we are hosting our annual raffle. You can go to www.ndgraffle.com. That's ndgraffle.com and support us. In today's podcast, we're going to look at the 42 places where the Jews encamped along their 40-year journey from Egypt to Israel. The Torah says these are the journeys of the children of Israel going out from the land of Egypt. The Rebbe asks two questions. Number one, leaving Egypt was one journey, but getting to Israel took longer. So why list the 42 journeys under leaving Egypt? That first journey just took them out of Egypt into the desert. And the second question the Rebbe asks is, the Torah lists here the encampments, the places where the Jewish people stopped. The 42 places on this list are all the places where they encamped. But the Torah refers to them as travels. Why are they referred to as travels, not stops or encampments? The answer is that old, beautiful Hasidic teaching about Egypt. You've probably heard this from me before, because it's the Hasidic perspective about Egypt and the Exodus that really changes everything. It changes the way that we look at Passover. It changes every mention of the Exodus in our daily prayers, and it's going to help us understand the Torah's listing of the 42 stops as travels. The Exodus from Egypt is not only historical, it's also current and personal. The word Mitzrayim, which is the Hebrew word for Egypt, shares the same Hebrew root as boundaries or limitations. This is why we recall the Exodus when observing so many mitzvot, which have nothing to do with the Exodus from Egypt. For example, we recall it on Shabbat at the Kiddush, and so often in our prayers. Every mitzvah we do is a mini Exodus. Every mitzvah is an opportunity to open new spiritual horizons, connect on a deeper level, leave our comfort zone, and rise above our current spiritual limitations. The 42 stops that the Jewish people took on their journey were not just rest areas or points of interest along the way. Each and every stop represented another step in the spiritual exodus, in rising further beyond our limitations, expanding our boundaries, and reaching new horizons. That's why they're called journeys and not stops or encampments. The Baal Shem Tov taught us that we each have these 42 travels within ourselves. Each one of us encounters a redemptive, liberating, and uplifting opportunity, milestone in our lives. The 42 biblical journeys are symbolic and not historic. This is about our personal journeys. So now, if that's the case, why list all these separate places? Why not just lump it all into one giant journey, and this is the great journey of the Jewish people? Or this is the epic journey from Egypt to Israel. Why bother listing each and every place? So there are a few reasons for this. First of all, a lifetime journey may be far too ambitious for most of us, but broken down into manageable steps, it makes it more attainable. You don't have to make that giant leap all at once, bit by bit, one step at a time. And listing each place individually highlights and celebrates the unique spiritual achievements and contributions that each and every place had to offer. It's not one big move. It's all these cumulative steps that collectively make this big journey possible. Each step was different, each with its own challenges, each with its own opportunities, and each and every step we take is so vital and so important. You may have perked up when I mentioned that the Jews had 42 travels in the desert. I don't know where the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy got it from, but 42 is also famous as, if you remember, Jackie Robinson's number. In fact, the movie about Jackie Robinson was titled 42. And I think this actually ties very well into our Torah portion. Jackie Robinson breaking down the color barrier is also a form of exodus, breaking through limitations, rising above boundaries. Each of the 42 stops in the desert was breaking through another layer, rising higher, and opening new spiritual horizons. Yes, just like the Guide to the Galaxy, 42 is a very significant number in Judaism. There's an ancient prayer in the Siddur called the Ana Bekoach that's said just before the Lecha Dodi prayer on Friday night. That prayer has 42 words corresponding to the name of God that has 42 letters. So, this week, as you read the Torah, I want you to remember that each step of the journey is important. Each Jew is a crucial part of the global historic Jewish enterprise and mission. Each piece matters. We are all part of a greater whole. I'm Rabbi Yisroel Bernath. Shabbat Shalom.